Ever feel like you're walking a tightrope between what's real and what's, all in your head?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, get ready to have your sense of reality completely flipped because today we're diving deep into some seriously wild stories from the Darien Gap.
Oh, this is going to be good. Mysterios del Darién II TXT, right?
You got it. Straight from the source people who braved that wild, wild place. And we're not just talking about the jungle itself, though. That's definitely tense enough as it is. We're talking about strange, unsettling experiences. The kind that makes you question everything.
The Darien can do that to you. It pushes you to the edge.
No kidding. Okay, so first up, we've got this story. And it starts with a young guy from Colombia. Aspiring singer, like dreams of stadiums kind of singer.
Got that dries, huh?
Big time. But here's the thing. He doesn't just want to sing. He wants to escape. He feels like his hometown, it's holding him back, So he sets his sights on, where else? The Darien Gap.
To make it big somewhere else. Yeah, I've heard that story before.
Right. A tale as old as time. But here's the kicker. This isn't a desperate poverty situation. This guy, he's actually doing okay for himself. Sells all his stuff to fund the journey.
Oh, that's commitment.
Totally. But his mother, though, not exactly thrilled about this whole jungle adventure.
I can imagine that motherly instinct, right, to protect your child from, well, everything.
Exactly. She's begging him to reconsider. Can you imagine those conversations? The tension.
Oh, the push and pull. It's like a classic story almost. The son so focused on the future, the mother rooted in the very real dangers of the present. And that emotional baggage, you got to wonder how that plays out when they're actually in the thick of it, right? In the Darien, where things already feel kind of surreal.
You took the words right out of my mouth. And get this, she ends up going with him.
No way.
Yeah. Can't bear the thought of him facing it alone. Talk about a mother's love.
Wow, that's powerful. So what year are we talking?
This all went down in 2021, so picture it. They're in this unforgiving landscape, grueling hikes, steep cliffs, river crossings. It's like something out of a movie, but way more intense.
And everywhere you look, there's someone else chasing a dream, a better life. It takes a toll on you, that kind of journey.
Oh, absolutely. And it starts to wear on the mother, big time. Exhaustion, anxiety, even panic attacks. It's rough.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
But then, get this, just when they're about to continue after a rest, the son says his mother, she's like a different person. Sudden burst of energy, leading the way, practically dragging him along.
Really? Out of nowhere?
Yep. But as quickly as it began, it's over. The son, he hears his mother's voice behind him, clear as day, turns around. She's gone. Vanished.
Oh, wow. That sends chills down my spine.
I know, right? It's like, where do you even begin to explain something like that? But hold on tight, because our next story, it's a wild ride. And it takes us back to those three friends from Medellin we mentioned earlier. Remember them?
Yeah, the ones heading into the Darien. This is one. Was there something about unrequited love?
You got it. It's like a whole soap opera set in the middle of the jungle. One of the guys, he's head over heels for one of the women, but she doesn't feel the same way.
Ooh, that's a recipe for disaster, even without the whole Darien thing thrown in.
Yeah.
Emotions running high, jealousy.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, the text mentions this guy, the one with the broken heart. He's really into Santeria.
Now that's interesting. Santeria in the Darien. It adds a whole other layer, doesn't it?
It totally does. For those of us who might not be familiar, what exactly is Santeria?
Well, think of it like this. It's this blend of beliefs and practices, drawing from West African traditions, specifically the Yoruba people, and Catholicism. So you've got these spirits called orishas that can influence the human world.
Okay, so like they can intervene in your life.
Exactly. People might call upon them for guidance, protection, even healing. And get this, sometimes these orishas, they're believed to communicate through dreams, possessions, even like natural events.
Wow. So you're telling me this guy, already heartbroken, venturing into this crazy, dangerous place, he's got all these Santeria beliefs swirling around in his head.
It's a lot to process, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you consider that these beliefs are often passed down through generations. It's deeply ingrained in how you see the world. So imagine facing the unknown, the terrifying, even just the everyday struggles of the Darien. You're going to filter those experiences through that lens.
Makes sense. Okay, so where does the story go from here? What happens to these friends?
So picture this. They're deep in the jungle, exhausted. Every step is a struggle. And then the guy, the one in love, he claims he's been bitten by a snake. Oh, no. Not a snake bite. That's one of the worst things that can happen in the Darien.
Yeah.
Medical care is, well, it's practically non-existent.
But it's like your worst nightmare. You're totally vulnerable. So what do? These women, his friends, they spring into action. They start carrying him, trying to get him to safety. Talk about loyalty.
Wow. In those circumstances, you really see what people are made of.
Absolutely. But here's where things take a dark turn. This guy's behavior, it starts to change drastically. He becomes aggressive, even violent. And get this, he starts speaking in this strange, almost demonic voice.
Oh, wow. That's unsettling. It's like he's a completely different person.
Right. It's like something out of The Exorcist, but in the middle of the jungle. And tragically, it gets worse. He actually tries to attack the woman he's in love with.
Oh, no. It makes you wonder, could this be a manifestation of his mental state? Like the stress, the potential snake bite, the unrequited love, maybe even his Santeria beliefs, all colliding in this perfect storm.
So his mind is literally unraveling in this intense environment. It's a terrifying thought.
It is. And remember, the Darién, it tests you on every level. Physical, emotional, even spiritual in a way. It pushes you to your absolute limits.
And sometimes those limits, they blur, right? The lines between what's real and what we perceive.
Exactly. And you have to wonder how much of this experience is shaped by the beliefs of those who witnessed it. The text mentions that another group of migrants, they saw what happened, and they were convinced that he was possessed by an evil spirit.
Oh, wow. So even those who weren't directly involved, they're interpreting it through this lens of the supernatural. It's like the Darién itself becomes this breeding ground for these kinds of stories, this merging of reality and folklore. So we've got this guy potentially possessed, maybe just deeply troubled, lost in the depths of the Darién. What happens to him?
Well, sadly, the text doesn't say. It's like he just vanishes into the jungle, leaving us with more questions than answers. But that ambiguity, it kind of fits with the whole vibe of the Darién, don't you think?
Totally. It's like the jungle keeps its secrets. But you know what they say sometimes? The mystery is more interesting than the solution.
Absolutely. Keeps us guessing, keeps us on the edge of our seats. And speaking of keeping us on edge, our next story, it takes us from a trio to a whole crowd of migrants. And this time, the danger, it takes on a whole new form.
Oh boy, this is the one with the bandits, right?
You got it. This is where the human element comes into play. We're not just talking about the forces of nature, but the very real threat of other people.
Right. And it's a good reminder that the Darién, it attracts all kinds. Some looking for a new life, others looking to exploit those dreams.
Exactly. It's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
So imagine this. You're with this group, making your way through the jungle, darkness closing in, and bam, ambush.
Just like that.
Out of nowhere. These bandits, they're ruthless. They don't care who you are or where you come from. They see an opportunity and they take it.
And this group, they're completely caught off guard, right?
Totally. It's chaos, pure and simple. People running for their lives, the jungle amplifying every sound, every shadow. Can you imagine the terror?
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And didn't some of them see something strange?
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Some of the migrants, they describe seeing this black cloud, darker than the night itself, with a malevolent face swirling inside it.
Like something out of a nightmare, but could that have been like a hallucination? I mean, we're talking about extreme stress, darkness, the whole works.
It's definitely possible. The human mind is capable of some pretty incredible things, especially under duress. Sensory deprivation, trauma, it can all play tricks on your perception. There's even this thing called a shared hallucination.
Wait, shared, like multiple people see the same thing.
Exactly. It's not fully understood, but it's a documented phenomenon, often happening in situations of extreme stress, like we see here in the Darién.
So it could be a bit of both, right? Their fear is amplified by the environment, by the darkness, maybe even by their own beliefs about what lurks in the shadows.
Now you're getting it. It's like all these factors are feeding into each other, creating this perfect storm of terror and potentially the unexplainable. But the story doesn't end there. Some of these migrants, separated from the group, completely lost, they have this encounter with children.
Wait, what? Children? In the middle of all this?
Yep. And these kids, they start calling out, guiding the lost migrants towards safety. It seems like a beacon of hope.
Yeah, like a guardian angel situation, but with, kids. But there's a catch, isn't there?
Always a catch in the Darién, right? The migrants, they describe these kids as being unusually small. They weren't wearing any shirts, just pants.
Okay, that's a little creepy. But those details alone, that doesn't necessarily mean...
Hold on, I'm not done yet. Some of the migrants were convinced that these weren't ordinary children at all. They believed they were duendes.
Duendes! Those are like mythical creatures, right?
Exactly. Think of them as tricksters, spirits associated with nature, sometimes helpful, sometimes harmful. Latin American folklore is full of stories about them. They can lure people astray, especially children, but they can also offer protection or guidance, sometimes even leading people to hidden treasures.
Okay, so now we've gone from bandits and hallucinations to potentially mythical creatures. Is there anything the Darien doesn't have?
Right. It's a place of endless possibilities, for better or for worse. And that's what makes these stories so captivating. They force us to confront the unknown, to question what we believe, and maybe even reconsider the boundaries of our own reality.
So what do you think? Did these migrants really encounter duendes in their moment of need? Or was it just their exhausted minds playing tricks on them?
Honestly, I think that's for each of us to decide. Maybe it was a bit of both. Maybe the Darien, it amplifies our beliefs, makes the impossible seem possible.
It's definitely given us a lot to think about.
It always does.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the mysteries of the Darien Gap. Remember, if you've got your own strange tales to share, we're all ears. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep an open mind.